What's up guys, Jonah Mathis here. So today we're going over Samsung's latest flagship soundbar system. Now this is the Samsung HW-Q950T Soundbar system. Consists of four main components. It has the soundbar itself, of course, which is the star of the show, a wireless subwoofer, and two wireless surround sound speakers, all of which comes in a 60-pound box. Everything's well packaged, so I couldn't imagine that you have any issues with damage during shipping or anything like that. So this is a 9.1.4 channel soundbar system. Now this means that we have 9 channels firing directly at ear level. We have one channel, which is a subwoofer, and then we have 4 channels, which include upward firing speakers. One of the main selling points for this system is that it's capable of playing Dolby Atmos and DTSX content. Now, Dolby Atmos and DTSX are 3D object-based surround sound codecs. These are mostly known for adding in overhead sound effects, so things like helicopters, explosions, rain, things like that can sound extremely immersive because it actually sounds like it's coming from above you. And that's where they utilize these upward firing drivers. Now I would like to mention that this video is not sponsored in any way. I did buy this soundbar with my own money, even though I already have a complete Sonos Arc surround sound system. The only reason I bought this system is because I got a ton of requests from viewers saying that they wanted to see a review of this and a comparison against the Sonos Arc. That'll be in a future video, but in this video, we're going specifically over this soundbar system. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys would smash the like button on this one to help support my channel. But yeah, let's jump into things. So starting off, let's talk about each component of this system. Of course, we're gonna start with the soundbar itself. The soundbar itself is 48 inches wide, 2.7 inches tall, and 5.4 inches deep, weighing in at a total of 15.7 pounds, which is quite heavy to be honest. The soundbar itself has a 7.0.2 channel configuration with 15 built-in speaker drivers. That's more than I've seen in any other soundbar that I've looked at. The different channels are as follows. So there's left, center left, center, center right, wide right, right, and then there's 2 upward firing drivers. It's pretty impressive how they've laid out this entire design because 15 drivers for a soundbar like this is really quite a lot. The soundbar has this interesting 6-sided shaped design with angled plastic grills on the side, which I really like, but then it has this rough cloth that covers the majority of the soundbar, and this thing's gonna collect dust and particles, and I have cats, so it's definitely gonna collect cat fur. So I'm really not a big fan of the cloth covering, but overall I think it looks pretty decent. Something to note is the height of the soundbar. Because it is 2.7 inches tall, you may need to check the clearance with your TV just to make sure that it doesn't come over the actual screen. It does come with simple wall mounting brackets, but you will need to use your own screws to actually attach it to the wall. So now let's talk about the connections available. So of course there's a power input over on this side, and then there's an HDMI eARC/ARC port, which is great because eARC is always nice to have. It kind of future-proofs the soundbar a little bit. And there's also 2 HDMI inputs on it. It does include a digital optical input as well, but I really wouldn't suggest using that unless that's what you absolutely have to use. Digital optical is going to limit your soundbar to a 5.1 channel configuration, and you definitely don't want that on a 9.1.4 channel soundbar. I will mention that it's kind of difficult to connect the HDMI inputs on this. You do have to bend the HDMI cables pretty heavily to get them to all fit properly and to make sure the soundbar actually lays flat. I think for most people it's probably not going to be a huge deal because once you get it set up, you're not going to be moving it around too much, unless of course you make, soundbar review videos on YouTube. On the very bottom, there's an ID set button, which helps pair the subwoofer and rear surround speakers if they don't pair automatically initially. There's also a network button to connect it to your wireless network when you're connecting it in the SmartThings app. And there's a service USB port on the very bottom in case you need to run a firmware update or you have some issues with the soundbar. If it's connected to the network, then you really shouldn't have to worry about that because it'll automatically update through the app. And these aren't really connections, but it's always good to note that you can play audio both through Wi-Fi and through Bluetooth. There's 4 clicky buttons on the very top of the soundbar. One is a multi-function button, which basically cycles through inputs when you're trying to adjust settings, things like that. There's a volume down button, volume up button, and a microphone mute and unmute button. The display is located on the top side of the soundbar, So this will show whatever input you're selected on, if you're cycling through various options, things like that. There's also 3 status LEDs on the very front of the soundbar, and those indicate if it's receiving a volume up, volume down command, and it'll also show if the microphone is muted or not. It also comes with a typical Samsung soundbar remote. There's nothing really special about this thing. It's pretty generic across most of their soundbars, so I'm really not going to waste any time with that. Now we'll go over the subwoofer and the rear surround speakers. We will come back to the soundbar itself, but I think it's important to go over all components of the system before moving forward. The subwoofer is 8.3 inches wide, 15.9 inches tall, and 15.9 inches deep, weighing in at 21.6 pounds. There's a single 8-inch 160-watt driver on this, as well as a rear port to help improve the sound quality a little bit. It seems like Samsung really couldn't decide on a style here when designing the subwoofer. It's made of this like cheap plastic material that's bound to get chipped. It has this rough cloth covering over the driver itself, and then the rear port actually has a glossy finish. So I'm really not sure why they combine so many different styles here. I'm not a big fan of the look of the subwoofer, but for most people, they're probably gonna stick it in the back of the room and not really worry about it. The only connections available on the subwoofer are of course the power input, and then there's also the ID set button in case you need to manually pair it with the soundbar. Now the rear speakers are 4.7 inches wide, 8.3 inches tall, and 5.6 inches deep, each weighing in at 4.6 pounds. These speakers are in a 1.0.1 channel configuration, which means that we have one driver facing forward, and then we have one driver firing upward at an angle for Dolby Atmos and DTS. The design is much better than the subwoofer in my opinion. I do like this. The plastic material doesn't look bad on the rear speakers themselves. And then again, they have this cloth material that covers the very top of the unit and the very front of the unit. Again, the cloth is the rough material and it's gonna collect dust, it's gonna collect hairs and particles, and you're gonna have to clean it every once in a while. The only connection that they have is power on the very bottom, and it will lay flat so you don't have to worry about the cable bending or anything like that. And then on the very back, they have an ID set button in case you need to, again, manually pair it. There also is a mounting screw for the very back, so if you need to mount it to a wall or a stand of some sort, then you can definitely do that. And it's good to mention that these are not the same exact speaker. One is labeled surround left and one is labeled surround right. So make sure you put them in the proper locations. I actually had them flip-flopped when I initially installed them because I didn't realize that they were different. I wasn't paying attention. So make sure you check before you put them in that location. Now that we've gone over all the components, let's talk about the actual setup process. Samsung recommends that you connect the subwoofer to power first, then the surround speakers, then the soundbar itself. This is to ensure a seamless pairing process. Now, if you don't do this, you could run into some issues with getting everything paired up properly. For me, I had no issues whatsoever, and I literally had everything set up in about 4 or 5 minutes. However, some other people didn't have the same experience as me when it came to pairing everything together. They may have followed the process and they still had a ton of issues getting the subwoofer and the surround speakers actually paired. So again, we have to use those ID set buttons and go through a very complicated process. Just make sure you follow the instructions in the manual to make sure you're doing that correctly. I'm not going to cover that here, but it is something to note. The recommended speaker layout for this system is to set the subwoofer in the front or rear of the room, and then the 2 surround speakers at a 135 to 150 degree angle behind the center of the main seating area. They also recommend that you use a rectangular room with flat ceilings. Now, flat ceilings is good for the Dolby Atmos and DTS features, where we have these upward firing speakers that are bouncing sound off the ceiling down into your ears. So that's very important if those features are important to you. Now, the rectangular shaped room is because of these side firing speakers. Because we have sound bouncing out the sides of the soundbar, that's going to bounce off the sides of the wall and then into the side of your ear. So it's going to sound like something's right next to you when all reality it's all the way in the front of the room. So my setup definitely isn't ideal because I have the surround speakers just to the side of the couch. We have a fairly open living room and we have a vaulted ceiling. So we have a lot of factors working against us in the living room area, but I did test the sound quality of this unit in a rectangular shaped room. You can connect your soundbar to Wi-Fi with the SmartThings application. As soon as you pull up the app, it should detect the system and it'll immediately take you through the setup process. It's very easy to do. With the app, you can also link the soundbar to the most popular voice assistant in the world, Bixby. No, you can actually link it to Amazon's She Who Shall Not Be Named to control the audio levels of the soundbar and various other smart home devices. Surprisingly, there are only a few settings you can actually change in the app itself, which is kind of disappointing. You can change what input audio is playing from, control the volume level, cycle between various sound modes, adjust EQ settings, and adjust the subwoofer's volume level. Really, there's not a whole lot you can do with the app. If you're interested in adjusting a lot more settings, then you'll need to use the remote control and the tiny display on the top of the soundbar. With that, you can adjust the treble, bass, sync delay, various channel levels, and the levels for each frequency band. It'd be really nice if you could do all this in the app itself, but for a small company like Samsung, we really can't expect them to include all these options in the app. That'd just be too much to ask for. Now I want to give my thoughts on the sound quality for the entire system. So when everything's working correctly and you're in an optimally shaped room, the entire system is quite impressive. The soundbar itself is extremely impressive because of the 9.0.2 channel configuration and the 15 drivers inside of it. There's realistically not many other soundbars out there that have this type of configuration. However, the subwoofer and rear surround speakers don't seem to shine near as much as the soundbar itself. I constantly feel myself wanting more thumpiness from the bass, and the rear surround speakers just overall don't have an amazing sound quality to them. But with everything working together, this system has a very impressive and very immersive soundstage. In an optimally shaped room, you can clearly hear the discrete channels from the soundbar, the rear surrounds, and the subwoofer. However, in a non-optimally shaped room, such as my living room, with a very open space, vaulted ceilings, things like that, a lot of the surround sound elements, including the Dolby Atmos and DTS codecs, they don't shine near as much as they're capable of. Now I want to talk about exactly what I like about the system and what I don't like. So starting off with the things I really do like about it. First, I love the immersive soundstage. Now again, I've mentioned this already, but the fact that you can tell where all the channels are actually coming from is very impressive. A lot of other soundbars fail to do this. Second is that it's capable of playing Dolby Atmos and DTSX content. That's awesome. We love the 3D object-based surround sound audio codecs. They sound great. Next is that it has an HDMI eARC and 2 HDMI inputs. Now we know that not everyone has an HDMI eARC compatible TV, so that 2 HDMI inputs with pass-throughs allow you to get the highest quality of audio possible and still use your TV normally. Next is that it has Amazon's She Who Shall Not Be Named built directly into the soundbar. It would be nice if they include Google as well, but you can't ask for everything in the world. And lastly is the build quality of the soundbar itself. Again, I wasn't super impressed with the surround speakers and the subwoofer, but the actual build quality of the soundbar is very impressive. It's very sturdy, it's very dense, and I think overall it has an extremely good audio quality to it. All right, now I want to go over the things that I really don't like so much about this system. First is that it needs some heavy software updates to it. It really feels like Samsung rushed this product out to market without really solidifying the software included. There's a few issues with the pairing process for select people where they just seem to not be able to get everything paired properly. The sound levels don't seem to be very balanced across all listening levels. It seems that if a very loud explosion happens, that's great, you can hear everything clearly. And then once it goes down to a much quieter scene, it's very hard to hear some people. So it'd be nice if they could adjust some of these settings a little bit in the software. Next is the overall price of this system. When it was initially released, it was $17.97 USD. This is Mr. Kitty. Sir, you are in my shot. I know. But when I was testing this unit, the price actually dropped $200 to $300 depending on where you're looking at it. Now, why did this happen exactly? Well, my suspicion is that it didn't sell really well on initial release. So what Samsung did is they kind of pushed everyone to drop the price a little bit, and that helped get some more sales in. I know there weren't a ton of initial sales and it's not extremely popular because there's not a ton of great YouTube videos on it. There's a few good written articles on it, but even still, when a lot of other new products are released, Typically, there's a large influx of YouTube videos and a large influx of written articles. This unit does not have either of those. So if you do plan on purchasing the system, I would really suggest that you wait until the price drops to about $1,300 to $1,400, because $1,800 for this system is a little expensive. And I just wait a little bit because I'm pretty sure the price is gonna drop in the near future. Next is the display on top of the soundbar. Now, why they put the display all the way on the top of the soundbar, I have no clue. It's a terrible location in my opinion. It should be on the front of it, and it should dim down while you're playing something, and as soon as you use the remote or the app, it should light back up. Then there's the lack of options in the SmartThings app. Now, a lot of other soundbar apps give you a ton of control over the soundbar system, the different components in that system, all of that. This one, the settings are just, there's not a whole lot you can actually control. If you want to make changes and you want to adjust things, you have to use the display and the remote control. And honestly, it takes forever to make these adjustments because the display sucks. And lastly is that there's no automated room calibration. If you want to adjust the individual channels, the individual frequency bands, then you have to stand up, go look at the soundbar, adjust the setting, go sit back down to your main seating area, see how it sounds, stand back up, go check it, or you have two people coordinating back and forth, and it's an absolutely terrible user experience. Other companies out there like Sonos include an automated tuning process, which makes things really simple and really easy for everyone out there. Now, my overall thoughts is that this thing is just not worth it at $1,800. Really, I think a better price point for this system is about $1,300 to $1,400. That seems much more fair, and I think that'd be a good deal. There are other options out there like the Nakamichi Shockwave Ultra 9.2.4 channel soundbar that competes pretty well with this system. That one's right at $1,400 brand new, so I think these compare pretty well. Many people have also mentioned reliability issues with the subwoofer and rear surround speakers, things like popping, cutting out. I really haven't experienced this at all really, but that is good to mention because, you know, of course they may have defective units or they could have some type of interference in their room. You know, I experienced some issues in the past with other units, but with this one, everything seemed to work pretty flawlessly. I'm not going to talk down on the sound quality at all because it does sound very good. The only issue is that it's not extremely reliable and it's not extremely consistent with how good it sounds. Some stuff sounds really great and some stuff is eh. So take that for what you want. And with that, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click subscribe. I do various different videos on technology, soundbars, TVs, things like that. So if that's what you're interested, go ahead and subscribe now. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you click like. If you didn't enjoy the video, click dislike. Tell me what I can improve on in the comments down below. I always try and do better with my videos. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Next is the overall price of this system. Sir, no, don't scratch. Don't scratch. Next is the display on top of the soundbar. Now, why they put the display on the very top of the soundbar, I have no clue at all. What are you doing?